Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ and Addison, as always, ready to dive into some trades to help you be awesome. We're not here to, improve you. We love you just the way you are. We just want you to be an awesomer version of you. And part of that awesomeness is raising the value of your Dynasty rosters, because that's like bare minimum for someone being awesome is having a good Dynasty roster. So they don't all have to be. Let me put that out there. I would be in trouble if they all needed to be good.
But you need at least one.
You need at least one. That's it. Just one. Again, bare minimum. That's all we're talking about right now.
Yep.
So it is, as we record this, April 10th, which means we are 15 days from the draft. Yeah, today's Wednesday, 14 plus 1. Math.
2 weeks. Yeah.
And what that means is rookie fever has pure hold on everyone right now. Everyone is thinking about who they're going to get with their 2024 rookie picks. And that means it's going to be really hard to trade for those rookie picks. And maybe you are rebuilding. Maybe you are looking for the future. So what is literally and metaphorically the next best thing to do? Go 1 year out. Go for 2025. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about trades involving 25 firsts to take both sides of it, really, because, chances are, I hope we don't fall on one side of every single one of these trades. But if you are a team that is looking to get better, selling your 25 firsts is absolutely, to me, the easiest way to do it, because it doesn't affect you right now, assuming if you have your 24 picks, you get to make your pick. And 25 is so far away. Plus, you want your pick to be late if you're doing this, right?
Right.
You're competing. You want your pick to be the 112 or 14, however many teams are in your league. So if you want to get back into the draft later, you try and get someone else's who is a worse team's first.
Right.
So maybe this is another way, watching this show, you'll be like, oh, maybe I should get that 25 first out of here now. So the way Addison broke this down was deals involving 25 first by position, the position the trade is involving. And we love us some super flex. So we're going to start with quarterbacks. The first trade. Oh, I have thoughts and feelings on this kind of trade. Not even this trade specifically. So the first trade, 12-team super flex, the 101, a 25 first and 25 second for Josh Allen.
The team context of this deal is that the team that gave up Josh Allen is starting to enter their rebuild. They're shedding off of their assets, because I'm looking at their team right now, and like their next best quarterback is Justin Fields.
After in so many places
having Josh Allen, and then it's like he had Flacco last year. His best running back is Joe Mixon, and then a bunch of backups. So he's getting old there. He's got like Tyler Lockett and Terry McLaurin and DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver. So he needs to start shedding and getting younger, and that 101 definitely helps. The team that is acquiring Josh Allen, that traded away the 1.01, while yes, they deservedly earned the 1.01 last year by being 2-12. They are a very interesting team in that they utilize the taxi squad to their full advantage.
Excellent. All right, good. So that makes me feel a little bit better, because if it's in the rules, more power to you. Like, my Trade Addicts leagues are very purposely, very vaguely worded on my anti-tanking stuff, because legitimately, if it wouldn't have upset everyone, I would have allowed it, because I don't care. You should tank if you want to. You should be allowed to tank if you want to, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So I love it. I like it more in that case for the guy getting Josh Allen, because you have a team that maybe you already had CJ Stroud and Puka on your taxi squad. So all of a sudden you have a couple of top fives at positions on your team. And even if you don't make the playoffs, your first turns into the 106, and you still feel a lot better about your situation anyway. But also, I assume there's more moves they are going to and can make going forward. That makes me like it for them a little more, but still, like, if I were in this, I still don't think I'd do this anywhere, like on either side of this.
Looking at this team's overall team and with his taxi squad, I would pay this for Josh Allen. He has a whole lineup just on his taxi squad, because you're allowed to, in this league, you're allowed to have first and second year players, not just first year players.
Yeah.
So his taxi squad lineup would be Anthony Richardson, Devon Achane, Isaiah Pacheco, Zamir White. He's got Christian Watson on there, and then Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta. That is on top of the fact that he also had Trevor Lawrence already. He also has Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, and then just traded for Josh Allen.
Yeah, okay, that helps a lot.
So
yeah,
that is how you utilize the taxi squad to the full effect.
Absolutely, and check your league's bylaws, because if you can get away with that, you absolutely should. It's completely the right way to play.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So yeah, again, value-wise, the answer here to me is Josh Allen. If you're rebuilding, I think I want more coming back for Josh Allen. And again, it always comes down to trading studs just for picks is too much risk for me. I can't bring myself to do that.
But if you're going to do it, Caleb Williams and an extra first isn't necessarily the worst deal.
Yeah. But also knowing that this first is going to be mid at best with that lineup makes me like it a lot less to give away Josh Allen.
That's a good point.
All right, so let's move on. And the next one is a lot more in a realistic and easier digestible trade. A 25 first for Baker Mayfield in the 303. 25 first, 259.1. Baker Mayfield, 154. And the 303, 86 for a total of 241. I mean, like, Baker was good. You're not getting Baker for less than a 25 first. It's just not what I want to do with my 25 first. Even if I just won and like I won the league with Joe Flacco or even as Justin Fields as my QB2. So you don't need anything right now. It's April, but like you feel like you need that QB2. Yeah, sending a 25 first for Baker isn't a bad trade. This is fine from both sides. The values equal out well enough, but I'd prefer the first.
Yeah, this definitely isn't a very inspiring deal.
No, but it's something much more realistic for people to look at it. And like a baseline, like how you feel about this is now how you'll feel about players you like a little more than Baker, or maybe players you like a little less. They're like, oh man, I didn't really like that 25 first for Baker, and I don't really like this guy as much as Baker. So I guess like sub in Jared Goff instead of Baker. How does that make you feel? Like that's why I like this trade, because there was a lot going on in the first one. This second one is very straightforward, so you'll know how you feel about other players because you can know how you feel compared to Baker.
I think if it were me, I think I would also lean the 25 first side. I think it's kind of wild that the first is 100 points more than Baker Mayfield still. I agree with the analyzer in that I would take the first over Baker, but I don't think it's that big of a disparity. And a helpful QB2 that you can play every single week who has the ability to put up QB1 spike weeks. Not a bad player to have with a 25 first, especially like what we said kind of at the beginning, where you're hoping as a contender that you're taking on Baker Mayfield and then that pick ends up being later. You're probably not going to get the quarterback class next year is not fantastic. And even then you are going to need probably a top 3 or 4 pick to get somebody that you even feel remotely confident in for next year's class specifically.
So let's move on to running backs, which is always a little bit more interesting because most of my trades involving future firsts really are for running backs or for core players in my lineup. The problem is I'm not doing it now. I'm doing it when we're scoring points. I'm doing it a week or two before the season starts if I'm feeling antsy, which is me because I have no patience. But I have enough patience to know that I'm not really moving a first for a running back right now. But that being said, this first trade, 12-team, 1 quarterback, 25 first, the 203, and Ty Chandler for Josh Jacobs. 25 first and 1 QB is 291. The 203, 157. Ty Chandler still holding strong at 39. For a total of 487, Josh Jacobs is 332.6. Again, 3 for 1, you're overpaying a little bit. Picks for player, do you have to overpay sometimes, especially when it's a future first, so it's random. So sometimes you have to give a little more for someone is going to score points. I would give up a 25 first for Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, again, easily.
I don't want to do it now, but like, again, if I'm in a league where I receive this offer and I know I don't have a very active league, this might be the last chance I ever get to trade. Yeah, I'll do it now. I will say, and that also reverse is probably the same. if I'm trying to rebuild and I'm trying to get these picks and I realize I can't get 24 picks, getting the 203 is not nothing. I feel like I should clarify, get that. Even in a 1QB, the 203 is absolutely not nothing this year. But like the big asset in this is the 25 first. So I also take this if I'm trying to get rid of Josh Jacobs, because I don't think you're getting better now. The world will be different when people need to score points and two of their running backs get hurt. Will you get much more than this? Probably not, but you might get more. So if you want to make the move now, which is cool if you do this, a 25 first plus a little bit is absolutely right on par for Josh Jacobs.
I'm going to find myself with a lot of Josh Jacobs this offseason in both Dynasty and in my redraft leagues, because I think that he's just going to be such a value, because him in Green Bay is going to be monstrous. And I think that he's just such a value for Dynasty specifically too, because of the age a little bit and the free agency. And he didn't have all that great of a season last year either, even though like yardage wise, it was great. He just didn't score touchdowns because his team kind of wasn't that good. Now put him on a pretty good team, a playoff team, touchdowns should probably come back up. So I'm all in on Josh Jacobs. This is absolutely a deal that I would do right now. The only way that I wouldn't really do this deal, or I should say that I would be hesitant on doing this deal, is if you are a team that's like, oh, I'm looking to compete in 2025, but I need an RB1 in order to do that. Then I kind of like, I think I would step back and I probably wouldn't pay that for Josh Jacobs. Figure out when you're in the season, if you actually are a contender without an RB1, then pay that 2025 first for a Josh Jacobs kind of a player. I agree that on the other side as well, too, that this is a good trade, that if you're trying to get younger, shed some age and stuff like that, and move off from a running back, that a 25 first and the 2.03 is a pretty good price for right now. But I would also, like you said before, like if you could hold off and wait until even like the summer, whenever people are really starting to look at like competing in their overall rosters and their lineups, then that might be a better time to sell Jacobs. You might be able to get more, or, you know, when he's actually producing. Like if he comes out in first couple of weeks, he's like, boom, like the RB3 overall or better in the first couple of weeks, because he has 200-yard games and scored twice. You know, that would be the peak time to sell that.
Let's move on to the next one, which is a little bit more interesting. A 25 first for Alvin Kamara, Dontavian Wicks, and Chris Rodriguez. So I first saw this trade and I was just like, 25 first for Kamara. But then I'm like, oh, well, okay, you got two young guys coming back also. So it makes it a little better for me. The 25 first, still 291, because this is still 12-team one quarterback. Kamara 236, Wicks is 75, Chris Rodriguez 25, total of 336. I'm not giving up a first. I don't even say don't want to. I'm not giving up a first for Kamara anymore. Nope. I wasn't doing it last year. I'm not doing it now. I like Dontavian Wicks. I really, really do. I think that there's a chance that he walks into that pass catcher 2 spot in Green Bay. And I don't want to say wide receiver 2, because I know that their tight ends were showing a little bit also. But I do think Wicks will be that pass catcher 2 on that team. I love Dubs, but he always had trouble with consistency anyway. So all of that being said, I still don't think I send my first for this. Chris Rodriguez is kind of nothing to me here. Just a
handcuff
there. Sorry, man. Chris, I know you watch. I don't mean to offend you, but I love the idea of getting an older guy who produces and then a younger, maybe dart throw, but a guy like a player you like at least. So like Dontavian Wicks fits this formula for me. And even the dart throw at running back, you know, in case Eckler gets hurt or doesn't pan out. So maybe Chris Rodriguez sees some time with Brian Robinson. Who knows? Whatever. There's like I said, it's a dart throw. So like I don't have a reason to now be more into Kamara than I was last year.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not paying a 25 first for Alvin Kamara either. My general rule is that if I'm trading away a first round pick, especially a future first round pick, like I need multiple years of either production or value coming back. And Alvin Kamara, I can't sit here and say is going to do that in either one of those. Like, I don't know if Alvin Kamara is going to have multiple years of production or production worthy enough of paying a first round pick for it. I don't think I mean, I can almost guarantee for you that he is not going to have multiple years of value because he's going to continue to lose value. He's 28 right now. He's going to turn 29. That's on the verge of 30. And look at even Derrick Henry has been producing solidly to where it would have been worth paying a 25 first a couple years ago, or a future first a couple years ago. But he's continued to lose value. Joe Mixon has lost value. Aaron Jones has lost value. James Conner perennially loses value to where he's now like an RB5 or something like that. You know, like these guys continue to produce, but they're a running back and they're getting old. And it's just, I can guarantee you that Kamara is not going to return on this. So I would much rather just keep the asset or take the asset that is going to continue to ascend in value, not going to get hurt, is not going to get older in terms of age. Then and I'll figure something out with Alvin Kamara if I need a running back or something like that. I do really like Dontavian Wicks as well too, and I would try to find another way that if you want Wicks in this, to just try to put Wicks in a different package or just trade for him individually. But I'm not trading a first for all this.
All right, so let's move on to our faves and let's talk wide receivers. And this is I have so much to talk about in this first trade. So 12-team Superflex, Bryce Young in a 25 first for Garrett Wilson. Bryce Young, 308, the 25 first, 259 for a total of 578. And Garrett Wilson, 688.7 by itself. So all of that being said, Garrett Wilson is still worth more. I get it. They were bad last year. And to make it worse for Bryce Young, CJ Stroud happened. And while that literally has nothing to do with Bryce Young, it does in people's minds. Because if we're raising CJ Stroud for what he did, we need to lower Bryce Young because he didn't do what Stroud did, which is wrong. But that's, again, not the point. I guess maybe it is a little bit the point. Like, I mean, I'm still in on Bryce Young. I still think he can be very good. And we've seen Carolina do the best they can with the bad situation they put themselves in. Like, they had to give up their future first to move up to the 1 to get their quarterback. And that isn't great. And their cap situation isn't great. But they brought an offensive lineman. They traded for Deontay Johnson, which is good corpse of Adam Thielen. So, like, he now has a reliable wide receiver to throw the ball to. So, like, I'm in on Bryce Young. I just need to put that out there. I needed to get all this off my chest before we started even talking about this trade specifically. All of that being said, if I have Garrett Wilson and my team is bad and like I need that QB2 and I want that future pick, I still do this trade because, again, I believe in Bryce Young. I believe Bryce Young has the outcome of being a solid QB2 at worst to me, which absolutely has its place on your team. And I love Garrett Wilson. I've always been a big Garrett Wilson fan, and I'm ready to have Aaron Rodgers play more than 30 seconds of football for the Jets this year. It's still not ironclad that Garrett Wilson will be a difference maker at wide receiver. I want it to be. I believe it is absolutely possible. But to me, it's still worth the gamble to go and get a very solid quarterback to start building your team around, plus a future first on top. So while the analyzer doesn't necessarily agree with me here, I think I like the Bryce Young in the first side. And spinning this around, if Bryce Young is my QB3 and I'm looking to go all in on this season, I think I want someone I've seen do it before. Even though we've seen Garrett Wilson do pretty well with very bad quarterback play, I would still feel safer if it was even like maybe you just swap Bryce Young straight for Jalen Waddle. I would rather do that instead of involving my first if I wanted to move Young in that situation. Because even though Waddle's coming off of what we would call a bad season, even though it was by no means a bad season, we've seen him have multiple top 12 wide receiver seasons.
Yeah, to be honest with this one, I just want Garrett Wilson in this deal. I am not a Bryce Young believer anymore. I do think that he will have a value increase this year because I do think that it gets better than last year with Dave Canales
so hard to get worse.
That's a good point too. But with Dave Canales coming in, I mean, he quote unquote fixed Geno Smith, quote unquote fixed Baker Mayfield. So hopefully he can fix Bryce Young as well too, or at least build an offense out to where he is successful enough for fantasy that he is a more consistent QB2. I don't think he's ever, I shouldn't say ever. I don't think he's going to get to a QB1 ceiling soon. over the next couple of years. But if he turns into Brock Purdy, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked. But I'm kind of betting against Bryce Young. I tweeted out a list like 2 years ago of quarterbacks in their rookie year who had through at least 300 pass attempts, but fewer than 12 passing touchdowns. And the list is rough. It is like filled with rookie quarterbacks that never then went on to do anything. The only exceptions are Trevor Lawrence is on here, which you can argue how much of a better hit he's been since then. Josh Allen is on here. That was a big one, but he won a lot with his legs. So, a lot of rushing touchdowns could have been passing touchdowns, but those are basically Geno Smith is on here as well too, but it took Geno like 6 years after this rookie season to ever do anything. So
like 9, I think it was.
Yeah,
it was 2013.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so it took a while, but like Mitch Trubisky's on here, Zach Wilson's on here, David Carr, Josh Rosen, Deshaun Kaiser, EJ Manuel, Matt Leinart, Blaine Gabbert, Mark Sanchez, Vince Young. Like this, I just read you 90% of the list on here as well too.
Oh my god, that list hurt my brain.
Kenny Pickett was on this list as well too. I tweeted this out before Kenny Pickett's rookie season, but Kenny Pickett is on the list if you add him in.
Yeah, I'm still willing to give him, again, especially at the cost of acquisition, I'm willing to give him a shot.
At the cost, it's not bad, but in this trade specifically, just give me Garrett Wilson. I'm not going to argue that if you're competing and you want to go all in, that maybe you want a more surefire wide receiver than Garrett Wilson. You can get, AJ Brown or Puka, or even if it's like Tyreek Hill for a year or two, before he retires or whatever. I'm not going to argue against that, but basically any of those wide receivers, I think, is a better individual asset than Bryce Young in a first.
Yeah, I get it. And that's, like I said, I think that's the right answer. But I believe.
If you believe, then don't pay Garrett Wilson for it.
Yeah,
that's the answer.
Let's move on to the next one. Ooh, more Dontavian Wicks. Let's go. 25 first, 210, and Dontavian Wicks for DK Metcalf and Gabe Davis. 25 first, 259. 25 first, 259. The 210, 118. Dontavian Wicks, 64. Total of 441. DK Metcalf, 375. Gabe Davis, 54. For a total of 429. So Analyzer has this pretty even. I have come to terms with the idea that DK Metcalf is a really good wide receiver too. He should be a top 20 wide receiver every season. He's still not old, which he's only 26, so he's still not old. Give him 3-4 years, and I still think he's going to be a solid wide receiver too every single time, because the man is an athletic, not human. And especially now that the Seahawks have not dinosaurs coaching and offensive coordinating, they'll pass the ball more. And I do think that they're going to do well, and I do think DK Metcalf is going to do well, but I think they're also now at the point where they're going to be running more 3 wide receiver sets, because I actually did a little bit of reading and listening on their offensive coordinator, because I really just I need for my soul to feel that JSN is going to do better. And they run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and even though they brought back Tyler Lockett, JSN will be on the field more because there's 3 wide receivers. But all that being said, they're going to spread the ball around more. And so DK Metcalf is still going to be fine. I still think sending your future first for Metcalf is a good move. Like, I'm down for that. The 210 and Wicks and Gabe Davis being involved is a little less caring for me, because I can see someone saying swapping Wicks and Davis means absolutely nothing. Like, you could just write that off as being fair enough, because again, is it? Not for me. I'd rather have Wicks, but some people don't care about who might be the 3rd or 4th wide receiver on their teams, and both of them have that possibility.
In the larger scope of the deal, it is relatively a wash.
Yeah. And even the 210 in a super flex, it's not nothing, but it's not a lot. So I don't, again, like, if I want to trade my 25 first for DK Metcalf and someone says throw in the 210 and it's a deal, I'll probably just do it. I would try and get I would try and get Gabe Davis back also, try and make it like a little better. So like I get it, and this is fine. And I'm struggling with the idea of, does DK Metcalf fall into that glut of wide receivers where his production feels replaceable? And if he does for you out there, then you don't send your first for him.
I think that is an interesting way to look at this. Is like, if you like DK Metcalf, by all means, I mean, he's worth more than a random 2025 first. And you're not really upset about the 210 and Wicks being added and sending away Gabe Davis. The core of the trade is you are getting DK Metcalf for a 25 first, which I view as a win, regardless of your situation, whether you're rebuilding or competing. Now, you could argue that Metcalf's production, like you said, is not necessarily more than replaceable or better than this other wide receiver that you can get for 2 seconds instead of a first. I can definitely understand that argument. Or if you already have, 2 other DK Metcalfs on your team or something like that, in the form of like, you have, I don't know, like a Zay Flowers and then a Terry McLaurin or something like that. You already have 2 of those guys. What's the point in adding another DK Metcalf into that team? I get that as well too. You could roll the dice on the 25 first, giving you the opportunity to give you something different, or use that 25 first and package them with a wide receiver and get a better wide receiver. I understand all that, but I think at the core for me, I want DK Metcalf over a 25 first. So I would make this deal regardless of the situation that you're in. That's probably my advice for like 80% of teams out there right now.
We don't have any tight ends on here, but that to be said, off the top of my head, how many tight ends would you send a 25 first for? And again, I'm not even talking realistic. Like, yes, I would lovingly send my 25 first for Sam Laporta. No one is doing that deal. But like,
right.
Laporta, McBride, Hawkinson. You didn't say yup.
I thought about it for a second.
I
think I would, because it's not going to, like, the issue with that is I'm not sending away my 25 first to buy Hawkinson to compete this year with Hawkinson, because I think he's going to miss at least 10 games. And then whenever he comes back, how effective is he?
In general? Yeah. That's fair, but I still do it based on what the value will be.
Yes, I agree. I would still do it, because you're waiting till next year for that 25 first value to be fully realized. And then you're waiting until next year anyway for TJ Hawkinson to come back.
Time is money.
So there you go.
If you believe in Kincaid, then you easily do it. His value is worth more than a 25 first. I am not there. I don't really like Kincaid all that much. I don't think you have to anymore, but I would still do it for Evan Engram. His prices have been weirdly low, even though he's been the tight end 4 for the past 2 years. I'm in on Engram, and I would still do it.
I don't think you don't have to pay a first for Engram, but I love buying Evan Engram.
Mark Andrews,
Kyle Pitts. Are you still willing to for Kelsey? He feels like one that you don't have to. But
would I, if I were in a league where this is the only chance you have to make a move and you need a tight end, I would send a 25 first for Travis Kelsey. I don't want to. In most cases, you don't have to, and especially in April. But again, Russ, you have one day to make trades, and this was the only trade for a tight end that I was able to work out. Yes, I would send a 25 first for Travis Kelsey. I believe that he will produce worth that.
We didn't mention Bowers, but if you can somehow trade a 25 first for like the 107 or something like that, then you get Bowers.
I think we hit like 7, which was more than I actually expected.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with 7 for sure. And then Kelsey and Ingram were guys that were like, you probably don't have to.
Yeah. Like, and like that just shows when, Ingram and players like him aren't really worth the first. That means those players like Goddard, and man, Muth doesn't even fit there anymore. Higbee, these guys that you are more than okay starting week to week, definitely not worth a first, or a 25 first. So don't feel like that's something you should or need to do. Like, especially if you're not in a premium league.
Yep.
I just do that a few times just to make sure it was.
No.
But, on that note, that is the end of the trade. So that is the end of the DLF trade show. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. We'll catch you next time.